Good morning, Gamecock fans. Today is Wednesday, May the 7th, the year of our Lord 2025. I'm JC Shurburtt, and this is Coffee. Certainly good to be back with you today after a brief hiatus. That happens from time to time, but we're all good. Full day of content here on Chief Sports. Got a JC and Morgan popping around 9:45 Eastern live, both on this channel, Chief Sports South Carolina, and also if you wouldn't mind going and hitting subscribe on College Football Forever Chief. That is the home of our college football content. JC and Morgan got some other more big picture college football things that we're going to put up there, but it double casts, so you can get it here or you can get it there, wherever. So you don't have to like uproot your listening plan. If you want to catch JC Morgan, we're not going to take it away from over here, but also it lives over there, and we're trying to build up the subscribers on that channel as well. So go hit that subscribe button at College Football Forever Chief and catch JC Morgan today. Josh Pate will join us from 24/7 Sports CBS. Always interested in what Josh has to say. Good friend of mine, a guy I've known for years, and certainly really proud of the work he does. He's a self-made man. And I love his delivery and don't always agree with everything anybody says, even Josh, but he and I are kind of have similar philosophies on the sport, and certainly the success he's had is tremendous, and glad that he's gotten the opportunity. I used to work with Josh back when he was doing television and his own show at a local television outlet in Columbus, Georgia. And Mike Morgan started his career in Columbus, Georgia as well. For those that don't know, aren't familiar with Columbus, it's kind of the crossroads of the deep South slash SEC. It's right on the Alabama border, so there's a lot of Alabama fans, a lot of Auburn fans. It's right next to Auburn. And then, of course, a lot of Georgia Bulldogs there, too. So it all kind of comes together. It's a great place to be someone reporting or, doing this kind of content because you get to touch three fan bases, and it's a great place to start. Josh was there, and years later, he came to 24/7 Sports and slash CBS, and now it's Josh Pate College Football Show. Go check out that channel as well. He is outstanding at what he does. Again, don't agree. We don't always agree with everybody, right? And there's probably certain things that you don't agree with Josh on, but he's a good listen. He's in a world full of kind of fakeness and things of that nature. Josh is real, and he keeps it real, and certainly is a very intelligent human being with how he talks about it. So check out Josh Pate on the JC and Morgan podcast later today. That'll be live and then on YouTube. And then within 24 hours, we usually have it up on the podcast version. That's Spotify, Apple, iHeart, wherever you want to get it. You can get JC and Morgan. Phil and I will be back with the show today, this afternoon, talking Gamecocks and lots of other topics. And then, of course, tonight, the Gamecock Softball team opens SEC tournament play against the University of Alabama down in Athens, Georgia. First pitch is scheduled for 8. We know how these things go with softball, baseball tournaments. Sometimes you start a little later, but Ashley Chastain Woodard and her crew get things started as they chase a national seed. So that's it's been a bright spot this spring with baseball, doing what baseball did, and some things with basketball. I mean, it's hadn't been the best 2025 so far for the Gamecocks, but I was talking to somebody the other day, folks, and I said, well, maybe this is the price you pay for football glory. The sports gods, they want to take their pound of flesh or whatever, and maybe that's the sacrifice. I can remember a lot of years at Alabama when football was rolling and men's basketball and baseball were not, so to speak. But with those two programs, there needs to be fixes. I did take note of what Lamont Paris said at the Gamecock Club meeting down in Charleston about Collin Murray-Boyles. The door is open for him to come back. I didn't think that. I thought he was gone, to be honest, but apparently he can come back. And I don't know. I wouldn't hold your breath, but things change. And you're talking about with the NBA draft, such a big difference between lottery pick and end of the first round, you know, money wise, yes, quality of life wise, because you can get sent to the G League or play in Europe or whatever. And so we'll see, as he goes through the process, what happens. There's been other players that have gone through the process and returned. And I'll tell you that the financial resources are in place for him to get NIL money to come back. So they're at 14 now and holding out hope a little bit that CMB comes back. Now, if he does come back, I think that's very significant as far as how this roster looks, because you have a bona fide star and then a lot of pieces around him. A lot of guys that can play within the system. And Collin Murray-Boyles, to me, did play within the system. He was one of the few guys that, I repeat, I cite this game a lot when I'm looking up and Carolina's winning. I think it's the Florida game. Carolina's up by 14 against the national champs, and Collin has about 6 assists, very unselfish. And that's how you're going to win, if you're South Carolina. Out basketball people, make the right choices and decisions within the scope of Lamont Paris's offense. So sort of maybe some semi-encouraging news there that the door's not completely shut. I'm not getting anybody's hopes up here because he's good and the NBA folks obviously love him and all that good stuff, but there is that chance. I was not aware that there was a chance for him to return, but he does love it at South Carolina, and that says a lot about the program. And, I think that when you look at, the pieces they've put in place, if you bring him back, that's a different outlook, I think, than maybe what it is now, because you do have that guy you can rely on, and boy, him next year with the improvement he made from year 1 to year 2, if he makes another jump, that guy's going to be something else. And you've got guys around him now that I think can play, guys that can hit shots, they can all shoot. Mongolian Mike is the thing most basketball people will tell you about him is a facilitator of offense, i.e. a great passer. Sandico, the big man from Providence and St. Joe's, he's a guy that, as a big man, that's really good at passing. He can also shoot from outside. Kobe Knox is a defender. Michi Johnson's got experience. Eli Ellis. You start adding all those pieces that are, a lot of them are question marks. They're not bad. They're kind of not role players, I guess, but you kind of wonder who's going to step up. Is it without Collin Murray-Boyles? Is it going to be Michi? Is it going to be Eli from the backcourt? Who amongst the bigs will end up having a pretty good year? But if you throw Collin Murray-Boyles into that mix, especially, Collin didn't shoot from the outside a lot this past year, but he's got a good outside shot. You're probably a little bit different outlook. I'm certainly not predicting anything as far as that goes, but I think it will be a little bit better outlook. Collin and a whole new team, so to speak. And Cam Scott's back. You don't know what he's going to do. Obviously, there's some potential there. And if you can get more out of him and maybe he kind of comes into his own, I don't want to say grows up, because that makes it sound like he's like an immature guy or whatever. And certainly that's not the case. Just wasn't ready to go out and play. If you can get some things out of him, you're starting to kind of check a lot of boxes. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't count on it, but I do think that there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance, to quote one of Jamie Bradford and I's favorite movies, Dumb and Dumber. So, yeah, that's probably, a lot of the conversations we get into on the show and the morning show. The morning show also starts at 10, by the way, so check that out as well. It'll overlap with JC and Morgan, but it is what it is these days with 4 hours of Gamecock programming. You can't fit live shows in on one end and then the other. That's kind of one of the reasons we went to the alternative YouTube channel as well, to kind of get that going. Some news from Shane Beamer about Rasul Faison. He called the NCAA's delay frustrating. I don't blame him. I know they got a lot going on. but they I guess requested more documentation and they've gone the extra mile. I think with the injunction in the state of New Jersey uh, for a player that really has traveled a different road. Um, Jet, the Jet guy, his name escapes me. Anyway, Google Rutgers NCAA lawsuit. That guy was started out at the NCAA and then went to JUCO and then came back. Rasul's just kind of been a straight line. So to me, as far if you're talking about starting a clock, and you're going to say, well, Diego Pavia's clock technically did not start because he was in JUCO. Rasul has a stronger argument than the kid from Rutgers, in my opinion. And so that should be it. And maybe the NCAA is waiting to kind of look into that and see what happens. Maybe there's an executive order that gets signed that gives the NCAA the ability to cancel all these. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what. There's so much stuff going on right now, folks. Moving parts in different places. Like when you start to talk about an executive order, that's not like Congress passing a law. That can change from administration to administration. I understand Tommy Tuberville wanting President Trump to get involved and do that, but I just don't think you can handle this by executive order. It's going to get challenged in court, and we've seen what's happened to a lot of these executive orders. And you have to skew an executive order more toward like the president's ability and philosophy with carrying laws out, because that's his job, is to enforce the law, not to make the law. So it's more like a regulation. And it is, it can impact things, but I just, looking at just how our government's structured, and we love it. It's the best system in the world, but you're not going to, you're going to throw everything into chaos. If there's an executive order that does anything like difficult, right? And especially if it messes up the House settlement. I mean, good God, I don't know what, I don't know what'll happen there. I'm kind of hoping that maybe, and definitely, just from a Gamecock perspective, you don't want Tommy Tuberville's ideas to creep back in. He's looking at it from a perspective of the Blue Bloods and what he did at Auburn. And basically, remember how many recruiting battles Carolina lost to Auburn, and those kids just, he wants to hold kids there, and eliminate the transfer portal situation. And, I just know. I mean, as chaotic as all this is, folks, I don't think the Gamecocks in any way, shape, or form want to go back to how it was, because the portal's been good to Carolina. You don't have to, Shane Beamer hasn't had to suffer through the year 3, 4, and 5 downturn and rely on freshmen and just build for the next year. You can kind of reload, and you want to keep that. I don't. Tuberville doesn't have the right ideas. Bless him. It's crazy. Now, I don't want to see full employment and unions and all that stuff either. I mean, that to me, that's a bridge too far. As far as collective bargaining and things like that are concerned. If you can do collective bargaining without employment, I think maybe that would be a compromise, but you just don't want all that to creep in. The institutions, actually, the NCAA, they're right that Olympic sports are going to be decimated because the cost is just so much more when you're talking about full employment with unions and stuff. And, unions, their job is to get the best deal for the constituency. I mean, in theory, not all of them are that way, but it's constituency. Um, that's their job, is to to get the best deal they possibly can. And so they're going to nickel and dime it for everything they're worth. And these are not, athletic departments are not, for-profit organizations where they're just sitting there on a bunch of profit and taking theirs off the top and getting rich. They spend every penny they bring in. The 20 million for rev share is bad enough. And then, you're talking about Ohio State losing $30 million last year, 30 million in the red at one of the biggest athletic departments in America. And probably one in Texas and Ohio State are 1 and 2 in revenue. And folks, Texas raised ticket prices to pay for it. So, there's not this unlimited stream of money, no matter what people think with the way college athletics is set up. Plus, 90% are public institutions. You're going to be dealing with public employee unions, which are illegal in some states. I just don't know. I just don't know that you can go like that, And again, it's not professional sports; it's on the job training. And as the House settlement stands, and I've said this, it's the best on the job training program in the country for any profession at all. I mean, where are you going to get all the benefits that you get with being a college football or men's basketball player, along with six figures cash with a chance to go to seven if you're good? On the job training. It's not professional sports now, if they end up doing away with the eligibility clock and we have 30-year-olds, and I don't even know if I'm sticking around for that, folks, then, maybe it is semi-pro and you just say it is what it is. But as long as you're dealing with college students and college kids and folks that, are not at the professional level yet, then, it is what it is. It's an on-the-job training program. I mean, medical doctors go into debt by some cases, a few $100,000 to go to medical school, and they have to pay that back, right? These guys, whether they make the pros or not, in many cases, they'll have life-changing money and a good nest egg if they're smart with it. And I do believe that financial education needs to be part of this somewhere. Nobody wants to talk about that. The daggum NCAA ruled that you can't do that because it's an extra benefit. This shows you how stupid some of these people are. But I just think that I just think that at the end of the day, people have to start looking at this for the great deal that it is and say this is beyond a good deal for student athletes. And if you go to employment and you start bargaining and stuff, there's two sides to that coin. They could sit there and say, well, we're not paying anybody any more than this as a freshman, blah, 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 blah. So you're actually probably causing some folks to lose some cash somewhere along the way as well. So with all that going on, I don't know what's going on with Faison. I feel like if anybody has any common sense, he should be eligible. I feel like if they rule him ineligible, he could take them to court and easily win an injunction and get to play. So I think he's playing, but daggum, it's frustrating, and the waters are so muddy right now. Who knows? But I think even if the NCAA comes back and says no, I don't think that'll be the end of it. All right, so today's topic, it's going to be interesting. And this is one of the more interesting things that happened during spring football practice around here because it's a little unexpected. Everything else kind of went like according to what I thought. I thought Fred Johnson would be a significant guy. I thought Brandon Cisse would come in and be good. I said during the first portal window that Cisse is probably too good of a player not to take, and dadgummit, he's proven that pretty good to the point where I'm like, how are they going to get Vakari Swain, Judge Collier, and Brandon Cisse on the field at the same time? My mind with going on 40 years of staring at depth charts, I'm like, well, gosh, there's two corners. How are we gonna get these guys on the field? Who's gonna play nickel? And a lot of folks want to move Kilgore back to safety, and that's all well and good, but I don't think that's the coaching staff's plan. Also, Kilgore had 5 picks last year, so if we think that, well, maybe you'll just put Swain in on passing downs and bench Kilgore. I mean, is that smart? I know Kilgore got beat, but they all did. And corners get beat. I mean, that's the Luther Burden catch against Missouri. That was disappointing for Kilgore, but I don't know what you're supposed to do in that situation. Now, that's a good matchup for Missouri, Burden on Kilgore. Credit them with calling the right play and catching them in man-to-man and all that, but that's Luther Burden, dude. He's good, and he's got drafted by the Bears. So Pretty excited about that. Replacing an aging Keenan Allen as wide receiver 3 with Luther Burden. I think Caleb Williams is probably happy about that. Just got to get him the ball. But anyway, not going to talk. Not going to go into the Bears today. But, that happened. But Kilgore, I mean, 5 picks is a lot. And, God, remember the Alabama game? That was as clutch of a play as it was. I mean, he's good. He's a good player. Great. Really, some think he's going to be drafted first round next year. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but that still didn't surprise me. Didn't surprise me. Gabriel Brownlow Dindy and Monkel Goodwine were good this off season. Didn't, I mean, really nothing surprised me except the backup quarterback job because, like many, I thought Air Noland would sort of run away with it. I was like, well, Cutter Woods is a true freshman. Dante Reno, who has since hit the transfer portal, he was a guy that I thought was probably, they're probably going to give him first look since he's the returning guy. And he kind of got passed, and Luke Doty got thrown in the mix, which was something that did not surprise me that Luke was playing more quarterback, but it did surprise me that he's in the mix to be QB2. In fact, I don't know that there's a leader right now, and that includes Luke Doty. And I'll tell you why, for those that are wondering. Luke Doty's got starting experience. He's played college football for a long time. Knows the offense. Obviously, it is a new system, but good at the offense. He's got wheels, so you can, let's say, God forbid, something happens and Sellers has to go out of the game. You're not going to lose a lot as far as quarterback run game goes. And Cutter and Air can run too, but not like Luke Doty. I mean, Luke Doty's an explosive athlete. Passing has not been a strong suit when he started, but let's be realistic. When you're a redshirt freshman in 2021 and you've got the mad scientist over there dialing them up and you've got a broken foot, how good are you going to throw the ball? Remember G.A. Mangus talking the other day about LaNorris Sellers' lower body and getting it set? Well, when your foot's broken, that's going to affect your lower body. And he went until he couldn't go anymore. But, I can see it. I'd say Luke Doty's got just as good a chance as anybody. Just going off the history, Beamer and the coaching staff, they like experienced players because when you throw somebody out there that's not, and let's talk about what a backup quarterback is. It's a situation where you never know when the starter's going to go out, and it happened in the middle of the LSU game last year. It happened 2 weeks in a row, Kentucky and LSU with Sellers, and you need a guy that can kind of get you through. And with an older guy like Doty, that's kind of a get you through guy. You don't lose that much with the game plan. You don't have to necessarily scale it back a little bit, when he comes in, although they did with Ashford last year against LSU, I know. But, so can Luke Doty win the starting quarterback's job? I'm sorry, the backup quarterback's job? Absolutely. I'll give the same answer Shane Beamer gave. Absolutely. Well, then there's Cutter Woods. Now, Cutter, the spring game, obviously, he shined. Let's just be honest. He looked really good for a true freshman. I think he's got a bright future. He's a young player to be excited about as being part of this program. Does not surprise me. He's coming in as a high floor backup quarterback candidate. Just knowing how he was coached in high school, how he performed in high school, the offense he ran in high school, it does not surprise me at all. Does it kind of surprise me we're talking about him maybe being QB2? Yes, because even with a high floor, he is still a true freshman. But he's picked things up quick. He's smart as a whip. He's a competitor. He's a gamer. He's a baller. Can't say enough good about Cutter Woods. That said, will he be QB2 this year? I don't know. There's a chance, just like with Doty. I could see it. Hale McGranahan from thebigspur.com has reported as much, to not count Cutter out. Some guys are just good enough to go in and be that guy as true freshmen. You never know. It doesn't mean that at the end, that they'll be really good. It doesn't mean in years 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5 that they're that good, but if they're good as freshmen, good, and the second best quarterback on the team, absolutely. The last true freshman quarterback to start here would be uh, Luke Doty in 2020. Jake Bentley did it, of course. I'm sorry, before him, Ryan Helinski in 2019, and before him, Jake Bentley in 2016. Boy, the Muschamp era, they started three true freshman quarterbacks at different times. He was only there 4.75 years. Of course, Doty, let me back up. Doty did not start technically for Will. Mike Bobo took over, and Luke started the last two, Georgia and then Kentucky, at the end of that, mercifully, the end of the 2020 season. Whew, good Lord. Um, December, early December road game at Kentucky in front of 10,000 people. Wow. But Shane Beamer was hired that night, so I guess we didn't anticipate, a lot of people didn't anticipate how good things would be. But Beamer actually has done quite well. Been working on an article in that regard, kind of comparing his first 4 years with Spurrier's and, all that good stuff. But, and really, when you dig into the actual results, the metrics, Beamer's done arguably just as good of a job first 4 years as Spurrier did. Of course, we can talk about a lot of different things with that. And I'll wait till the article comes out so you guys will go read it before we get into all that. But, true freshmen started here a lot at quarterback. I don't know, QB2 means if something happens to Sellers, Cutter's coming in. So we'll see how that goes. My opinion is if they can possibly redshirt him, they will, just because you got LaNorris Sellers there. If you have Luke Doty or Air Noland as your backup, why not save the red shirt? It just kind of depends on what happens. So we'll see there, but certainly a lot of reason to be happy and excited about Cutter Woods and his performance. And it wasn't just the spring game. I mean, he showed out in practice as well. Beamer mentioned during a press conference that he took him on a 20-play drive. I mean, during a scrimmage. I mean, that's hard, and against the Carolina defense, any SEC defense, that's hard. So, yeah, lots of things to be excited about with Cutter Woods. That brings us to Air Noland. Now, I don't think Air Noland was disappointing this spring. In fact, during some of the scrimmages, my spies told me that he had very, very good arm talent. He's a lefty. He can spin it. Has a lot. Brad Crawford had a tweet about that, compared him to Spencer Rattler arm wise. I don't know. The thing Spencer was good at was putting the ball where nobody else could get it. I agree that Air Noland's spring game performance was a little underwhelming, but also he didn't really have any blocking. LaNorris Sellers as well. I don't know why when Cutter got in there, they blocked better. Probably could go back and look and see who was on the field, and that would answer my question, right? But yeah, Air didn't have a lot of time, but he's a smooth operator, and he's a big time competitor too. That's the thing in talking to contacts that are close to Georgia high school ranks and all. That's what I love about that guy. He's a freaking competitor. Trust his arm. I was told almost too much sometimes. But Air Noland's definitely in the mix. I think that because of the performance of Cutter and because of the age of Doty and his experience, it does, I guess, bring it more into a true competition for these three, but for the backup job. And all have strengths and weaknesses and things like that you can break down. But this battle is going to continue. I mean, Beamer, for all that we don't get sometimes out of press conferences from coaches, if you kind of read between the lines sometimes with Shane, he will tell you what's up, and he's not lying. He was asked about the backup quarterback job. He said that is a great competition, and it is. It is. I mean, I look at it myself, and I can see any of the three getting the job, and I can see the strengths that they bring and the weaknesses and all that good stuff. And I think a lot of it may depend on the situation. But Mike Shula's got a decision to make with regards to that. I would still believe it would probably be Luke or Air at the end of the day, just because Cutter's a true freshman. And if you don't need him, uh, you know, I would probably venture to say he will travel to every game because you want a third, you want an emergency quarterback just like the pros. And sometimes you travel your true freshman quarterback anyway, just so you can get used to being on the headset and all that good stuff. But we'll see. We'll see sort of what happens because it is a battle royale, and it's going to be tough for anybody to emerge. I think they will have earned it if they get the job. And yeah, I don't, people ask my opinion, who would you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I could see any of the three. This is one of those things where I don't want to say I don't care. I don't care sounds like I just don't care, and I'm not paying attention. But I'm kind of ambivalent as far as I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other about any of them, and I could see any of the three making it and winning the job for different reasons. And I think that whoever is the best and gets the job, great. I think when you have a quarterback that runs like LaNorris Sellers does, and we do need to see him run this year, there's always that risk that he gets a stinger, or risk that he gets a stinger, has to go out for a play or two, misses half a game. There's always that chance. Um, and I thought LaNorris, after sitting out the Akron game, really kind of came back, struggled with Ole Miss, but then the more he played, the better he got, and he was fine. Um, and I think that that's always something that the staff is discussing and talking about is, his running ability and how to best employ that. Because, like I said, you don't want to get him hurt. I remember a couple of years ago, KJ Jefferson at Arkansas, Kendall Briles was the OC there. I got a lot of respect for Kendall. Think he's a really good OC. But they ran KJ almost too much, and he took some beatings. I mean, some shots. And he's a big kid, not as obviously he's really big at UCF this year, but not as fast and quick as LaNorris. All the comparisons between Sellers and Jefferson were insane, in my opinion. Um, Sellers looks like he's 205 pounds when he runs. He's that elusive and quick. KJ was just a steamroller. But he got beat up. And then Arkansas, if you remember, it was 2022. They beat Carolina. They were off to a great start, beat Cincinnati at home. And then they ran into problems. I think they ended up losing to Liberty. Maybe that was the year they lost to Liberty at home. But he got hurt, and then that was their whole offense. And they put a backup in, and they couldn't score. And they finished 7-6 after a 9-4 year. So that in the SEC particular, it's just like running back, where just about every year you have a guy miss time just because they get beat up. You run your quarterback that much, and I'm talking a lot. I'm talking lots of called power runs with the QB. You're probably going to be worried about who your backup is. And so that's not. I'm not saying anything there about the bowl game or he made. I think LaNorris definitely left some yards on the field during the bowl. I think it was almost an overcorrection. But I also don't think that you need to run him 25 times a game unless you have to do that to win. I mean, even against Clemson, with that rushing performance, he didn't have that many, I think 14 carries officially. So, there's that. He did run it a bunch, I think, against Old Dominion. He had some games like that. But I think you got to find a sweet spot there. But it also, if you run him at all, and he is going to run, it does. You always want to say who's the backup quarterback, and that could be one of the three. Right now, I'm going to tell you it's dead even 33.3, 33.3, 33.3 as far as who will come out of that competition. I think it's a big summer for all three of these guys, and it'll be a big preseason camp. I expect them to kind of have that settled in by the time camp breaks. And when I say camp, I mean those first 2 weeks where they're just school hadn't started and it's basically like a camp. They don't do 2-a-days anymore, but they're working on football all day. And so out of that process, I think somebody will emerge and maybe on all the way up to kickoff August 31st against the Hokies of Virginia Tech, who continue to add players through the portal. It's going to be a big mystery, that game. So anyway, all right. So be sure to check out JC and Morgan later today. Also the show, the morning show, all the things we have here on Chief Sports South Carolina. Please hit subscribe. That subscribe button. Also go to @College Football Forever Chief and like that page too. That's where kind of college football, JC and Morgan will live while also living here on Chief Sports South Carolina. We're not taking that stream away from this page or channel or anything. We just added another one so you get more bang for the buck. All right. Want to say thanks to our sponsors here, Palmetto Golf and Belt, palmettogolfing.com. Boy, they're having a sale just about every week, and business seems to be brisk. So certainly appreciate everybody that supports our sponsors here. Also, GamecockCoffee.com to support Garnet Trust and NIL at South Carolina. This has been JC Shurburtt with Coffee. I'll be back later today a couple times. Holla at you soon.